Okay, think for a moment about your daily routine.
Yeah.
How much of it is, driven by conscious understanding?
Hmm.
And how much is simply, well, what you've always done, or maybe what you've seen other people do?
That's a really powerful question. Makes you stop and think about where your habits actually come from, right? Yeah. Even your beliefs sometimes.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the area we're exploring in this deep dive. We've got this fascinating piece here.
Hmm.
It's the first chapter of a Vietnamese text, Chir One Jang Kien Tik Hyun Sang.
Which translates roughly to chapter 1, using knowledge to direct life. Something like that.
Exactly. Using knowledge as your guide. So this chapter really sets the stage, arguing that knowledge, not just imitation, should be the main force behind our choices, our actions.
Yeah, it's arguing for a more conscious way of living based on understanding rather than just, well, copying.
Precisely. So our mission here really is to dig into that idea.
Mm.
We want to pull out the core arguments, the reasons why this text pushes for living by knowledge.
And hopefully give you some fresh perspectives, maybe things you hadn't considered, without making it feel like homework.
Right. No overwhelm. Okay, so let's get into it. The text kicks things off by highlighting something pretty fundamental about us humans.
Uh-huh. Imitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how much we just learn and operate by copying others.
It's almost automatic, isn't it? You see something, you do it, often without even really thinking about it.
And the text uses a great example, super relatable, brushing your teeth.
Ah, yes.
It points out most of us probably learn by watching our parents. And if they use that back and forth horizontal scrub,
And that's probably what you ended up doing too, which, as the text points out, might not actually be the best technique. That sideways scrubbing can be, well, a bit harsh on the gums.
right, and it doesn't get between the teeth so well.
Mm.
And this is a key point, right, for you
Mhm.
listening. The text uses this simple everyday act to show something bigger.
That these imitated habits, even small ones, might not actually be optimal, maybe not even healthy.
Exactly. But then it shows the turning point. What happens when you get new knowledge?
Like learning the correct way, the vertical brushing method.
Right. That new information can actually change a habit you've had for years, decades maybe.
And lead to better health, better well-being.
Yeah.
It's a perfect little example of knowledge directing your life, changing your actions for the better.
It really shows how just a little bit of understanding can empower you to fix something you might have been doing kind of wrong, just because that's how you saw it done.
Yeah, breaking the cycle of just copying.
But it doesn't just stay with teeth brushing, does it? The text goes broader, looks at more significant life choices.
Right. It brings up things like drinking alcohol or smoking. People see others doing it maybe without immediate, obvious negative effects.
Yeah.
And they might think, okay, well, seems fine. Guess it's okay for me too.
Yeah, that whole social proof thing. If others are doing it, it must be all right.
But the text warns against that shortcut, focusing only on what you see right now, not the potential long-term stuff.
Exactly. And then it throws in that really stark contrast.
The pesticide example.
Yeah, like nobody would imitate someone drinking pesticide because then the negative consequence is immediate and, well, catastrophic.
Right. Super obvious danger.
So the point is, some imitation is clearly bad,
Hmm.
but other kinds, even if they don't kill you instantly, can still be really harmful over time, quietly harmful.
Hmm. And this leads to a pretty unsettling question that the text itself brings up.
Yeah.
If we're living so much by just copying others, could we be like unintentionally copying their health problems too, or their misfortunes, simply because we're following their patterns without really understanding why things happen?
Oof. That is a sobering thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just inheriting outcomes through mimicry.
It really is.
And the text then makes a very strong statement about this. It basically argues that the tragedies people face, them and their families.
It says they stem from what? A lack of understanding.
Yeah. Lack of understanding, bad habits sticking around, basically failing to use knowledge to guide your life.
Wow. Okay, so it's drawing a direct line there. Negative outcomes linked straight to ignorance and ingrained habits, many learned by imitation.
It really hammers home how important the author thinks conscious learning is for just, well, having a better life.
And for you listening, maybe you're trying to sort through all the info out there. This is kind of a core message,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely. It's saying that real understanding isn't just abstract. It directly impacts your well-being, your ability to avoid, bad stuff happening.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. The text does shift gears.
Right. It talks about the positive side,
Yeah.
the promise of living a life guided by knowledge.
And what's interesting there is the focus on things like living with more ease, more happiness, safety.
Uh-huh.
And without constantly worrying about your health, it paints this picture of like a more secure, less anxious way to live.
And that taps into something really deep, I think, that desire for health security.
Totally. The text points out how lots of people, even really successful people financially speaking, they still have this nagging worry underneath about getting sick, about future health problems.
It suggests that anxiety comes from not feeling in control,
Right.
not really understanding their own health.
Exactly. They might have money, but maybe not the knowledge they need to feel truly secure about their well-being, so that worry just lingers.
And this chapter argues, pretty forcefully, that the only real way to actually possess good health and keep it.
Is through learning, actively gaining knowledge about it.
That's the core argument, isn't it, of this whole first chapter?
It really is. The author is basically saying, forget shortcuts, forget just hoping for the best. If you want lasting well-being, especially health, you need to actively pursue the knowledge.
Which is why the text positions itself and encourages you, the reader, or you listening now, to engage actively, not just passively read or listen, to see this knowledge as a tool, maybe even a mentor.
Yeah, on that journey towards better health, a more informed life, it wants to empower you to move away from just following the crowd.
Right. Towards shaping your life based on what you actually understand.
Okay, so let's maybe just quickly summarize the key takeaways from this chapter then.
Good idea. So first, we see how imitation is huge in our lives. Starts early, shapes a lot.
But second, that uncritical copying can be risky, can lead to habits that aren't great or even harmful outcomes.
Then third, the transformative power of knowledge. How learning something new can actually help you correct those habits, change direction.
Yeah, like the brushing example.
Exactly. And finally, that direct link between knowledge and well-being, particularly health. The text makes a really strong case there.
That genuine health requires active learning, applying that knowledge. It's not passive.
Okay. So as we wrap up this look at Chapter 1, here's maybe a final thought for you to chew on.
Okay.
Think about one specific habit you have, or maybe a belief, just one, and ask yourself, where did that actually come from? Was it from, like, conscious thought, deliberate understanding on your part?
Or is it maybe something you just picked up, adopted by watching others, maybe years ago?
Yeah. Just taking a moment to trace back the origin of even one small part of your life.
It might reveal quite a bit about how much imitation versus understanding is running the show for you.
Exactly. And what the implications of that might be for your own life, your own well-being.
It's definitely an invitation to examine things and maybe see where a bit more knowledge could make a real difference.